Hey there, guys, and welcome back to another Friday Facts. Finally, number 364, 1.1 stable. It's been quite a few months, and I am luckily joined this time again by Bombug.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on as always. How are you doing today, X?
Doing good. It's been a long time, man. I think we looked, and I think the last one was in November or something.
Yup, it's a good 2.5, 3 months or so.
Yeah.
And a lot has happened in that time. A lot of Alt F4s have gone out. Some of them we've joined in on, some of them we haven't. Some new games have come out. But,
Mm-hmm.
Factorio just keeps coming back and kicking with lots of bug fixes and lots of nice new quality of life, as always.
Yeah, yeah. It's got some real good stuff in this one. Now, if you are playing or have been playing on the 1.1 experimental versions, you probably have experienced most of this, but I think actually a lot of people just stay on the stable version. So up until this point, you probably haven't really come across any of these awesome changes. Uh,
Yeah, and I think of all games that have their beta releases, Factorio is definitely one you should join in on.
mm-hmm.
It's so easy to just, click the switch in your Steam settings if you're using Steam and pull up the latest version and get all of these nice features right away with really very little bugs, honestly.
Yeah, like, to be safe, definitely back up your save, but like the experimental versions of Factorio are honestly, at least in my experience, more stable than a lot of main brand versions of other games. Like, I can't remember the last time Factorio Experimental had a bug that actually like corrupted or ruined a save. It's usually just like at worst like a game crash, which is just then usually fixed within like a day, and like other little things. So it's really not that dangerous or anything, and you get some awesome features that sometimes aren't released on stable for months. Like 1.1 experimental started a couple months ago, and it's now on stable. So there's been all these cool features that um, if you were on stable, just stable 1.0, you weren't really experiencing until now.
Yep, definitely their experimental branches are so stable. I mean, how long did it take like Apex to fix their audio just completely gone issue, right?
Right?
That was like months or
So
something,
yeah,
wasn't it?
months and months. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's pretty bad. A lot of games. Um, so yeah, just kind of again, this just says basically what we said, that there were around 150 bugs on the forums, around 80 internal tasks to be solved. In other words, it was quite reasonably stable, which goes without saying when it comes to Factorio stable versions, but it proved to be a mistake wording it this way since some media picked up on it and represented it as a fairly bugged release. um, but I'm pretty thrilled to finally get to the point where we actually have zero known issues and zero active bug reports on the forums. It's like
Wow.
cleaning the kitchen properly so you can start cooking something fresh. More about that next week. So that right there, that's exciting.
Mm.
That I think next week we may get some insight into something new they're doing, whether it be Factorio related or something else. Definitely seems like that's what they're kind of hinting towards here.
Oh man, I can't wait to smell what they're cooking.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be real good. um, yeah, so there's some features of 1.0 that you might have missed if you were sticking to 1.1 that you might have missed if you were sticking to 1.0. So the first one, which is huge, this is something that's been I think wanted for almost ever, and that there's been mods that have done it, but it's never been supported in vanilla until now. Uh, and this is the blueprint flip feature. So, as Colin says, it was requested a lot over the years, and we always said no. The reason being that not everything can flip, things like oil recipes, rail signals, prompt checks, etc. Due to these asymmetries, if you flipped a blueprint with these entities, the result would be non-functional in the best case and cause complete chaos in others. But then Kovacs was playing and really, really wanted to just copy and flip his train unload setup, just your typical inserted chest belts. So he decided to just add it and prevented flip problems by just disallowing flipping blueprints that wouldn't flip properly. And like, okay, I'm I shouldn't be criticizing anything
Lay it on
here,
me. Do it.
but
Tell us what you think.
like, this is kind of like a, I don't know, almost like a forehead moment. Like, you know, it's like, okay, so how come this wasn't done like 2 years ago? Like, if it was literally this simple that you just prevented flip problems by disallowing flipping blueprints that wouldn't flip properly, um, like this seems kind of like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you have done this sooner? But I mean, it's here, so that's fantastic. Like I said, I shouldn't really be complaining. It just seems kind of funny to me that he's like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, let me just make it so this doesn't happen, and it's in. So what, where was this like 2 years ago? But um,
Yep. And
yeah.
I'm thinking too, if they could make it even a little more flexible, that would be nice. Where sort of what I'm thinking is you're still able to copy and paste blueprints that are non-flippable, but when you flip it, the non-flippable entities just pop off or are maybe
Mm,
not pasted. Because I know, like, if you try and paste a blueprint over existing buildings, it lets you, but it'll only drop down things in spaces that are not occupied, right?
yes.
So if you could do something like that, just not drop down those entities, that would make it even nicer. So you don't have, your really, really big setup of some part of a factory that you just can't copy and paste without making a whole separate blueprint, editing the blueprint, popping out the one pipe or something.
Right, exactly. I agree. I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like, it would be really nice to just, yeah, do that, and then if it can't be flipped, just don't, just like take the thing that can't be flipped out of the blueprint. So like in this
Yeah.
case, if you copy the train station, that like the whole thing, including the station itself, the station can't be flipped. So just don't put the station down, and then you have like the same result that is shown here, except you don't have to be as tedious and careful copying it without the station.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe that'll become in the future. I don't know. Maybe there's other issues that presents, but I agree. That's a really good point.
With that in mind, I'm still going to use the heck out of this, man.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
dude.
so nice.
I've used it on multiple builds. It's so nice. So how there's like hotkeys, and there's a vertical flip and a horizontal flip. So you can do it like either way or both, I suppose. It's really really nice. I've done it with. I think I did it. What did I do it with? Was it like a science build or a red circuit build or a smelter or something? Oh, it was like my steel smelters because I build my steel smelters like kind of one sided, so like they face a specific direction. And normally it was hard for me to like do a mirror of that, but now I just copied it and flipped it, and it was like good to go. So
Lovely.
super nice. But yeah,
And Factorio players crave symmetry.
yes,
So it's
yes,
just
yeah.
excellent
It's
feature.
excellent, excellent feature. So good. I love it. Um, and that's certainly not the only thing. Moving down here, do you want to take this topic on?
Ooh, Spidertron control? Sure. So this is a section by Clonin. They added a few last minute nice to have features to spiders for 1.1. This is in addition to the things that they demonstrated in past Friday Facts, just 3 Friday Facts ago, but it was so long ago now that they're taking
Mm-hmm.
a while to come out. And spider waypoints here have been added. It was super frustrating trying to navigate our watery playtesting map with the spiders. They would always get caught on the edge of some lake. Queuing move commands seemed like a pretty obvious fix, and it wasn't much work in the end. So we can see the little GIF here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's awesome. It's intuitive, in my opinion, in that a lot of games have this kind of waypoint tracking. How do you feel about it?
I am in love. I did a video on it a while ago, like when it first came out, and it's brilliant. There's actually this next one, which again you can cover, but this next one can actually make for some really cool, really hilarious scenarios that happen. That kind of in a way has to do with that. If you combine the waypoint thing along with the next section feature, so I really like it.
All right, so then the next section is the spider follow command. Another frustration was trying to control multiple spiders in combat. So the remote works fine for a handful of spiders, but once you get into the double digits, managing the spider remotes and spiders was just a hassle. So along the waypoints, Covarex added the feature of letting spiders follow entities and even other spiders.
Yes.
So this makes me think about I saw a brief bit of your March of the Spidertrons when you had that challenge to make a whole bunch of them in your stream.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel this would be different? Would you have had the spider follow command?
Um, I think it would have still been tricky just due to the insane amount of spiders I had. I mean, I had like think it was like 150 spiders or something. So that would have been still a little wonky using this feature, but if you're using 10, 20 something spiders, this is a really good way, a vanilla way to basically have like an army of them. There's mods where you can like kind of group select them, which I still would like in vanilla, but this is kind of an alternative to that where you can have one spider be kind of the leader and then have tell all your other spiders to follow that one, or just tell, or like make a conga line and just have one spider follow the one in front of it, etc. Um, and then you can kind of just have an army of them go clear bases, which is really nice.
Yeah, we've got this sort of tier of defenses and then offenses, and it's really great getting your nukes. It's really great getting your artillery, but having an army of Spidertrons clearing out bases at your remote command, that's kind of a whole new experience.
Oh yeah, it's it's pretty fun. Also, watching this is really creeping me out.
Oh, you want
It's
to go
someone
to
who
the
hates
next part
spiders.
then?
Yeah. But overall, fantastic features. I think things that were really, really needed with the Spidertron, so I'm glad they added them pretty quick. Um, so the next section, which is also really cool, Smart Belt Building, again by Clonin. So with the lane lock belt building added in 1.1, there was some wonky undefined behavior related to rotating the belts while building. So we fixed the bug by extending the feature set of belt building with the new Smart Belt Building. So um, basically how this works, it's a little, I did a video on this too recently if you want to check it out, as well as the feature below, but there's this one in particular is a little wonky. So how it works is, like, I'm sure you're aware of the lane locked belt thing they added. um,
Yep.
yeah, because we covered that. If you are like doing that and then you hit R and like move your cursor like a certain direction, it will automatically turn the belt, which is super nice. Um, but at least for me, this could just be an issue I have. It seems like you have to be kind of careful because like it's gonna go where you put your cursor, so you have to make sure like if you do it too fast, you may end up with like belt going directions you don't really want. If you're like moving your mouse all over the place, so you have to be fairly precise. But as you can kind of see here, by just continually holding down your mouse as if you were dragging it and then like moving it a direction, hitting R, it'll automatically turn, which is quite nice. Just a little wonky in my opinion sometimes.
So to make this clear, you actually have to hit R to rotate it. It doesn't just follow your mouse and auto rotate.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I tested it trying to just move my mouse. I could be incorrect, so I'm waiting for comments to tell me I'm totally wrong. And honestly, I'd like to be, because if this does in fact work where you just move your mouse and it turns, that'd be great. But I'm pretty sure you still have to use the R key.
Gotcha. Okay, so then you'd have to is it shift or control to rotate the opposite direction, right?
Uh, yeah, if you want to go. Well, the way, well, no, because that's what, exactly, that's why it's a little wonky. If it works how I remember is it turns based on where your mouse is. So like, if you want to go the opposite direction, you still hit R, but you just put your mouse like the
Oh,
opposite way. So if you want to go like, instead of going down on the first turn in this GIF, if you wanted to go up, you would just put your mouse above the belt and hit R.
interesting. Okay, I could see being down with that. I definitely have
Yeah.
to try it out myself and see. This is one of those things where it does feel like a constant improvement to get gameplay a little like smoother, more intuitive, sort of like swipe typing on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if it's wonky, then people just aren't going to use it, right? So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If it works for you, just drag your mouse and don't even have to R. That's actually super nice. And I guess I'm just dumb for not realizing that. But but yeah. So let me know in the comments, guys. But this next one is, I think, the real uh, golden feature here. So they gave themselves the opportunity to do a little feature creep. So we added the anti-frustration feature of automatic underground belt traversal. And this is like an absolute godsend for any sort of bus building in particular, just general belt use, but bus building is this is just so nice because for if you build like any sort of typical bus, if you have your like 4 lanes of copper, 4 lanes of iron, let's just say 4 lanes of circuits and steel, etc., and the spaces between to put undergrounds. Before, you'd have to like, if you wanted to run a belt from one side of it to the other, you'd obviously have to start with your above ground belt from wherever you're going from, and then you'd have to like switch to underground belt, and then you could just walk and like hold down the mouse because the undergrounds would automatically place that way. But now you don't even have to switch. If you just drag like an above ground belt over an obstacle, like another belt, it will just automatically place an underground belt, like whatever distance is needed to cover that, as long as it's within the, you know, distance that the underground belt will stretch anyway. So as you can see in the GIF, like they're just continually dragging belt and don't even have to switch to undergrounds. It's just automatically placing them, and you can see on the when they go up over the two walls, it's just automatically going underneath the correct distance without them having to do anything other than dragging.
This is to me just super cool. I actually like when I was reading this, I kind of did like a little handshake to myself while sitting down. I was like so excited. I'm like, ah, this is it. I've been waiting for something like this, so I didn't have to constantly, be hitting my keybinds while building my belts out. I
Mm-hmm.
do have some questions on how it works. Like if you've got red and yellow undergrounds in your inventory, which is it going to choose? I'm assuming it's going to start with whatever your belt is, but I just don't know.
That's a really good question. I would assume that. I'm not sure how smart they made it. My hope would be that it would use, so like if it's a space, the space that needs to be covered is 4 tiles or less, it'll use yellow belt, and if it's like 5 to however many tiles a red belt covers, then maybe it would switch. I'm not sure if it's that smart. That'd be really cool if it is. Where if it's more than an underground and the yellow belt will cover, it'll just use the next tier up belt if you have it, underground belt. But
Yeah,
I
either
think that
way,
needs some
super
testing.
cool. I'm really liking this.
Yeah, this is this is absolutely awesome. I love it so much. So fantastic quality of life features. Uh, moving down, do you want me to cover this, or do you want to cover? There might be some summarization in this section here, I think.
Yeah, I can tackle this. This is a performance improvement kind of thing, along with some bugs, so it makes sense, Boss Kid's in on this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is multi-threading belts. In the constant battle with the optimizations to let players build bigger bases, we quite often would do small changes that give performance improvements in the range of 1 to 2%. Recently, I started looking into the possibility of multi-threading the transport belt logic. This is one of the more significant performance drains and is still being done single-threaded, resulted in a huge potential performance gain. So in a past Friday Facts, transport belts were quite optimized, or already quite optimized. One could simply say make it multi-threaded, but there are a lot of technical challenges to solve before this is even possible in order to not cause issues when running in multiplayer. Basically, to ensure it would still be deterministic. Trying to do the naive multi-threading with all the transport lines being updated at the same time doesn't work. In figure 1, depending on which transport line would be updated first, the copper plate could land before or after the iron plate. This could be fixed using all sorts of synchronization primitives, but using them would increase the complexity of the code to the point where nobody would want to maintain it, and mainly, it would not guarantee the code would be faster or would not desync. So this next section here, the graphics are incredibly important. It's about these transport line groups, where if you look at the colors of the lines, they say that after some observation, they noticed a trivial fact. Not all transport lines can interact with each other. So in the figure 2, the left transport line on the horizontal belts can never receive items from the right line of the horizontal belts or from any items from the side loading.
Mm-hmm.
This gave him a simple, nice idea. We can group the transport lines in a way that lines from one group don't interact with any line from the other group. This means we can avoid all the synchronization logic between transport lines. When one thread updates one group, the other groups can be updated by other threads independently at the same time. So this big graphic that they've got shows these transport line groups where, say, the purple will only ever interact with the purple. The blue
Mm-hmm.
will only ever interact with the blue. And that means that while they can't multi-thread everything, everything in the purple can be on its own thread, everything in the red can be on its own thread, and things don't have to interrupt each other too much.
Right.
Yeah, so let's see if there's some summarization here. They said that there is some trouble maintaining the groups. So whenever a new connection is made or a connection is removed, they have to remake the groups. But overall, it's a nice improvement there. And then there's also an extra challenge with the wake up list, where the largest issue they faced was that the transport lines aren't entirely independent. So they have a sleep and wake up mechanism in the game since version 0.9, and it goes like this. Inserters taking from the belts may become interactive when there's nothing happening on both transport lines to save UPS. An inactive inserter would be stuck on its own in that position if there would not be any way to wake it up. In this case, the inserter registers on the transport lines so that when a new item comes in, it can be woken up to check if it needs to pick up any items. So you can see here the inserter is inactive until it gets an item close to it there, and then it activates.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, anything to summarize here? So they solved it by not waking up the entities immediately, but just adding the wake up request to the list to be processed later. It's a real smart idea. After all the threads are done, the main thread collects and merges all those requests and wakes up the entities in a deterministic way based on the group update porter number. So with the wake up lists and other similar cases handled properly, he started comparing some belt megabases, which were capable of producing 10,000 science per minute, and noticed that the transport belt update times dropped from 4 milliseconds to 1.6 milliseconds, which in total update time gives between 20 to 40% overall performance gain. Very
And
nice.
that is like a pretty huge performance gain.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people love their belt megabases, myself included. So,
Yes.
not that I've got a megabase anywhere near that level, but yeah, that's some nice stuff. And honestly, I'm really impressed with the way they tackled this. Multi-threading is really known for causing more problems than it solves, just because it's difficult to multi-thread right.
Mm-hmm.
And so people who challenge it make mistakes, and then you get the desync and stuff they're talking about. So I really love the way that they were able to break down this overall problem into threadable pieces, and then take the non-threadable pieces or things that would sort of interrupt that threading and properly push it off into its own sort of separate queue that gets handled nicely. Uh, that is a real challenge to be able to do, and a lot of teams will hit like an aha moment where they understand how to do it, but it seems like these guys just kind of they actually know how to multi-thread because they're using it so rigorously across their entire application that they just knew what to do pretty quickly.
Yeah.
As always, I'm impressed.
Yeah, me too. This is extremely impressive, and I think something that people have hoped for quite a while. And I will really look forward to seeing how big megabases will get now, belt megabases. See how much bigger they can build them and still be at 60 UPS with these optimizations. I also will be interested. Base, if we scroll up here to the picture where they have like all the different colored lines, I feel like there's somewhere or some way building your belts that will most optimize this new uh, feature, like this new way of multi-threading belts. So I'll be really interested to see what like all the theory crafters and like testing people and megabases come up with, where there's probably some super most optimal way of building your belts to take the most advantage of how these lines work and the multi-threading works for it now. So I'll be really interested to see kind of what comes out of that as well.
That's a good point. I wonder if people are going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to start breaking up my super long belts into different sections of belts. Maybe have some storage sections, some unload sections, so that each smaller section belt can be calculated independently." Oh, who even
Yeah,
knows? That's
exactly.
probably not going to happen like that, but
Well, yeah, but something, where there's some either amount of breaking the belts up or different ways of running them or something where you can take the best advantage of the multi-threading here. So this is really cool. Um, Always love to see the performance gains here. Another fantastic feature is the new train overview GUI, again by Cloned. So the beginning. The original trains GUI was added in 013 and only had cosmetic changes all the way to 1.1. We can see here 017 is on the right, small top right rather, and then 1.1 is bottom right, and then the large one here on the left is 013. Honestly, they look almost exactly the same.
Yeah, just kind of consistency in text boxes and stuff, right?
Yeah, they generally look almost exactly the same. So, moving down though, the basic design is clear. It's a list of all trains. You can see the schedule. You can click the button to open the train. You can search by schedule. At the time, it was a big step forward as there was no other good way of interacting with trains. For instance, you couldn't open them from the map view. There wasn't even zoom to world, and the locomotive GUI was very limited. During the old days, the mindset was that players would have just a few trains or 10 to 20 max in an extreme case. That's funny. Oh man, a lot of us have more trains than that for one station.
Seriously.
Oh man, so we didn't really see a need to categorize them much. The problem, with time, the game evolved, factories were growing, and subsequently, a number of trains kept going up. The insufficiency of the GUI became very clear during our internal 1.1 playtesting. We played for a whole week and extensively used the new train limits. We had over 100 trains and over 200 train stops, which honestly still is not like it's a quite a bit. But I've done a few base tours recently, and these people had like upwards of like 3, 4, 500 trains. So you can see how that would be a problem for this old GUI. So once we finished, I asked the rest of the team, did anyone open the train GUI even once? The answer was no. While playtesting, I also became highly familiar with what features I wished the train GUI had and what questions it should answer. How many trains do we have? How many stops do we have? What is the cumulative train limit of all the stops of a certain name? Am I keeping up with the demand for the given item? And mainly, do I have enough trains for this route? And this is really, really good stuff to show. I'm honestly, this is not really a complaint, more just a surprise. I'm honestly surprised that it did take this long for them to in some way implement a thing that shows you how many trains you have. um, as far as I'm aware, up until this feature that they very recently introduced, there was no way to tell how many trains you actually had without running a command in the command console. Which I always found interesting. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I don't know. I would think for something like a game that has so much to do with trains and transportation that at some point in the road of their development they would have added somewhere before now that would just display how many trains you had on your map. Um, I don't know. I just find that interesting. Again, it's not that big of a deal, but I was just always kind of surprised that it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I was honestly kind of expecting when I first opened the what's the word, like the production menu, right, to see material moving as well. I was expecting to see like your trains are moving this much ore or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually learned about like the production menu like r- really really late into the gameplay. Same for the power menu. I just like accidentally clicked on a power pole and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could see this. Okay, cool, cool.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the new Trains GUI, excuse me, I started making a mock-up mod in Lua, allowing me to quickly iterate on the design and content on the GUI much faster than C++, which or C++ would have allowed. After 2 days, I basically had a finalized design ready. After we reviewed the mockups, we agreed it was a massive improvement and decided to make it properly. I took it as a Christmas homework to write the new train GUI into the engine in C++, even though programming isn't much my area of expertise. After the new year, it was ready, so we did the usual Q&A and released it in 1.1.8. So, there are 2 tabs of the new setup, and each follows a simple but meaningful design principle. Trains tab, a list of trains categorized by their schedule. Stations tab, a list of train stops categorized by their name. And honestly, from there, it just kind of all fell into place, but let me explain some of the details. So, we see the trains tab. It now lists in the tab how many trains you have. Same with the stations. It shows which um, station is going to which station, which is quite nice. Uh, as well as all the rich text, which is super cool. Says, I would say the most controversial part here is removing the schedule display under each train map, and replacing it with the state description button. Uh, with the schedule displayed on the side, it is almost completely redundant information. The state button provides much more precise and relevant information. You can see which stop it's going to, how far it is, away it is, and also click on the state button to open the map of the specific train stop it's going to. So yeah, if we look at the right, we see like heading to copper drop off or waiting at copper drop off, etc. So this is really cool. Gives you a better idea of what the trains are actually doing. And this is a per station thing, it looks like. So you can see that they've actually clicked and selected the copper pickup to drop off, and then all trains assigned to that station, it's showing their status basically. The nice thing is that whenever you have some wrong or inconsistent schedule, you can easily notice it in the list, which is also really nice. The stations tab. So there's quite a bit of information here. Since the stations tab is completely new, there are no changes that people can disagree with. The aim with this tab was to try to present the information about the train limit of each station in some easy to digest way. The remark in the form of reservations train limit describes the station state. When I look at the drop-off pickup station of a single product, I can easily identify 3 basic notes. Not enough trains when the sum of reservations is too low compared to the sum of train limits. Not enough input when almost all trains are in the pickup waiting to be loaded. Backed up when reservations equals train limit in the drop-off where the trains are waiting to be unloaded. So kind of look, so like for drop-off, if we look at the top one, there's 7 trains out of 12, and they're all heading to drop off. And I mean, this just displays some good information, for sure. So
Yeah, definitely quickly visually noting what state your services are in of getting red circuits or getting ore or dropping off ore is super important to be able to see those bottlenecks visually in a menu altogether like this rather than having to scroll around through the map. That's real nice.
yes, yeah, this is super super nice. I think really great uh, features being introduced. May take a little bit to get used to, if you play with the old one for so long, but overall, really great stuff. I love it. Um, Last section is from our seating about save game speed. Did you want to cover this, or you want me to?
Sure, I'll cover it.
Okay.
So save game speed by our seating. There are many things in Factorio that they've optimized over the years. Runtime performance, startup time, saving, loading, and even quit speed. It gets more and more difficult to find anything to improve on without changing game features, which mostly he tries to avoid. Autosave time has always been one of those I wish it could be faster, but never finding anything that stuck out or gave any measurable improvements. Several years ago, he okay,
Yeah.
parallelized, I'll go with that, it's probably wrong, the iterate the game and compress and save to disk. However, there hasn't been any major improvements since then. The issues I would always run into was I could make one of those two processes faster, but the other always bottlenecked, and so the average overall speed did not change. Every few months, he would go back and try and think of new ways to make it faster, but always ran into the same issue. So he wants you to try it and see with this new change. The other week, he was doing that again and wondered just how much faster the save process would be if he could just pretend the compress and write to disk didn't happen. It turned out a lot. The larger the save got, the more time got spent waiting for the compress and write to disk. After thinking for a while, he decided to, instead of save the map information in one big compressed file, to split it into multiple compressed files. It's not a new concept, but they hadn't done it before in Factorio. A quick 30-minute implementation later showed that without a lot of changes, it just worked. The end result meant that the compress and write to disk parallel processing never blocked the main iterate the game logic. That alone made the entire save process around 20% faster, and as a side result, any improvements he made to the main game logic gave direct further improvements. In the testing he performed, the larger saves saw upwards of 2 times improvement to save times. Kind of interesting. So it seems like he's sort of separated the logic of uh, the actual like compressing and writing to disk, so we're not waiting for it anymore.
Yeah.
Grabs the data and then lets you keep playing while the compress and write goes off on its own separately without interrupting the game logic. That's pretty smart. But I mean, this is our seating we're talking about, so maybe this isn't even him on one of his brighter days, you know?
Yeah, this is this is pretty good stuff. Our seating is known for this type of stuff, and 2 times improvement is pretty huge, especially on those bigger saves, because some of those big maps, would take a pretty long time to save. Like, some of the
Right.
big mega bases and big maps, it could start auto saving, and then you could like take a drink of water, blow your nose, take your headphones off and readjust them and stuff before it finished saving.
I
So
remember just recently you were scanning your base in your new fighter jet, right?
mm-hmm,
And you were complaining, oh man, all these new chunks are loaded in. Just because I'm looking for resources, now my saves are going to be slow,
mm-hmm,
and that's always a pain. You're feeling punished for exploring
yeah,
or having more on your map.
yeah, exactly. So overall, great stuff. I mean, this this is a fantastic Friday Facts to come back with. So many good features, improvements. 1.1 being stable is absolutely fantastic. So all you guys who were only on stable should now get all these great features. And also the bit of a hint dropped that we'll get an idea next week of what they may be working on next. And my fingers are crossed. It's a DLC of some sort. Um, this is a whole nother discussion, so I don't want to go into a lot. But I mean, whatever they do, I won't be upset. But part of me kind of hopes it's not another game now, at least, because I think there's still more that could be added to Factorio, and we know that the devs, that they like to get things so perfect they take a while to develop. We know how long it's taken Factorio to get to where it is. So having another game, I don't know, another like 2 or 3 year wait could be a bit painful for another game. But even if they do another game, I know it's going to be fantastic.
Man, I'm expecting like a mobile game, and it's gonna be a MOBA, right? So you're gonna have your 3 lanes, but you're gonna be like automating attacks and defenses, right?
Right?
And you're gonna have to buy some microtransactions to unlock the good units. That's my hope, because
Mm.
Woobi's all about just getting their customers money as much as possible, right?
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, if anyone could do microtransactions in a decent way, I think it would be Wooby. like, if I know they would never do that, but if they did, I feel like they do it in a way where I wouldn't actually be that upset. Um,
I'm always down for like skin transactions for anything anyway.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't affect the game, and pay for it if you want.
Yeah,
As long as the cost is pretty reasonable, I'm down for that. But
yeah.
they've been working on this game so long. They haven't really done any sales, right? They get new money when new players come in, and I for one would be totally down if there's a DLC for the game to buy something new to expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I would love for it to be continuing the expansion of Factorio, not just a new game, but these guys got to get a little bit more money, man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, I think whatever they do will be great, but a DLC, I think there's still so much more that can be done with Factorio in some sort of expansion, like like some sort of extended late game. I always thought that just the rocket seemed a little eh. So expanding on that, maybe just whole new production cycles and buildings, and I feel like basically every single person that's been, where the idea has been brought up to them of a DLC, every single person I've talked to says they would be more than happy to buy it and support Wooby. So, if they need more funding or something, that's a great way to go because I feel like almost everyone who plays the game would be more than happy to buy their DLC.
Absolutely. And honestly, when you started, looking at the future here in our talk just a minute ago, I thought that the rant you were gonna start was, oh, the new thing that they're gonna bring in is an assembler update. Ooh, so my thought is, how about an MTX, a microtransaction skin for your assembler?
Dude, I'd buy
Would you
that
buy that?
in
Oh
a
yeah,
heartbeat. I
there we
want
go.
my
There we
damn
go.
upgraded assembler. Like, where is this? It's the only thing that hasn't been updated. Where is this? I would buy a skin for this in a heartbeat. Please. Please.
It happened. Take this man's money. Take it.
Yes, I hoped it would be on 1.1 stable. Please don't make me wait for DLC just for the assembler. Anyway, oh wait, maybe that's why they haven't done it. Maybe they're just like replacing it with a whole new building.
That'd be kind of cool. Like maybe one of the large buildings, like in some of the mods,
Yeah,
7x7 or something wonky like that.
there you go. Oh man. Anyway, I can't wait till next week. I'm super excited and really can't wait to see what they have to, come forward and everything this week. Fantastic. Love to hear your thoughts below. As always, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Really glad to be doing another one of these, and leave your thoughts and stuff on the forums and Reddit for the devs. And I believe that'll do it. We will see you later.
Later.